And I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Jack J Hutchinson. How you doing, Jack, man?
I'm doing all the better for seeing you, Lee.
Oh, you're too kind, mate. You're too kind. You really are.
Well, it's just that every time I see you, you've always got a cool hat on.
Well, I haven't got any hair anymore, mate, so I've got to do the hat thing.
That's
I've
what you just say that your hair is actually you've woven it into that cap that you wear.
I've stitched into the bit that I've got that's still at the back, mate. It's just, but no, it's good to see you, man. Um, as we air the interview on the 9th of February next Friday, as we sit now, but as we air it, it'll be the release of your brand new album, man. It's a really exciting time.
I know it'll be sort of like all over then, won't it? All that build up, and then you just spend the next couple of weeks going, "What am I supposed to do with myself now?" But we'll obviously be in the middle of the tour then, so it's going to be really cool. But yeah, exciting stuff.
Well, you've been kind enough to send it across, man. And I've been listening to it the last couple of days. I messaged you and I was at the gym the other morning when I first listened to it. This is another great record from you, man. It's got great groove to it. I would say it's definitely the heavier side of your sort of spectrum and stuff.
Yeah.
You got a bit of light and shade in there. But what what was the sort of key factors in terms of the sort of defining the sound on this record for you? What made you go down certain avenues?
Do you know what? I think last time I saw you, we talked a little bit about Aerosmith, didn't we? And Nine Lives and that sort of thing. And in terms of the production, I've always liked records like that where there's that kind of like contemporary modern sheen on it.
Hmm.
So, we talked about that very early on in discussions. So Josiah Manning, who's produced the record and co-written it with me, we wanted to go, take the best elements out of the other records that I've made and then just kind of polish it off and make the songs, cut the fat so that the songs are really kind of radio friendly, 3 to 4 minute tracks. And, I think that we achieved what we set out to do. And it does sound, to me anyway, to my ears, it sounds like a sort of very contemporary rock record, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, did the writing process change a lot between this and the Hammer Falls?
Well, I've never written with anyone before, so I've always been a bit of a I guess you could describe. I've got a bit of an ego with it. I've always been like, my ideas are the best ideas, and particularly in settings where somebody's tried to change one of my, you know, a chord structure or something within a song.
Yeah.
I've always been little bit like, well, I know best, you don't. So yeah, there was definitely a conscious decision with this to lay it all on the table and say, look, this is all up for discussion. And so Josiah was really good at taking, the bunch of demos that I'd written, and then sort of twisting the songs in different ways. I suppose the biggest one would be Bullets, which has just come out as a single. That was like a blues shuffle song.
Oh, okay. So I was really, really mixed up then from it.
So yeah, when Josiah sent the demo back, which he kind of reworks the tracks and creates a full band demo where he plays drums and everything, I was like, this isn't the same song, and he was like, trust me, sing the melody line that you've written over this, and I then recorded the vocals over it, sent it back, and we were like, damn, that sounds great.
So
Uh,
Bullets is a great track.
yeah, so we had this really kind of I'd say really fast working relationship where we were just, sending files across via Dropbox and then just kind of bouncing ideas off one another. And then, we initially wrote 2 songs, which are Constellations and Days Are Gone. And then we kind of thought, well, this is going quite well. Why don't we just write 10 tracks rather than two? And, within a couple of months, we got the full album pretty much down and then it was into recording.
Oh, nice one. Did you write anything that didn't end up on the album, or like did you just concentrate once you had those 10 tracks that you thought were really cool that you left it at that?
Yeah, there were some other tracks that were demoed, but it was a little bit like, let's be ruthless with this and make sure that we can have the best of the demos that I'd written. And one of the things was that we kind of kept to the up tempo tracks. There's a lot of up tempo stuff on there. So some of the other material I'd written was a little bit slower and a little bit kind of Americana. But that'll be saved for the next record. But then I did say to Josiah, I've got a couple of sort of what you'd class as more of the bluesy material. So we were quite keen to, kind of go back to that a little bit because I think the last couple of albums I put out have sort of, it's lost a little bit that bluesy the blues roots that I've sort of been known for over the years. And there's a couple of tracks in there, Love Is the Law and Stay With Me, which they got their roots in that more sort of emotional
Yeah,
subtlety, and I think they work quite well.
yeah, definitely, man. I mean, like I say, it's got that spectrum of it, and they definitely those tracks in particular definitely sort of like you say tip the hat to sort of previous records.
Yeah, Stay With Me was very well, talk about Aerosmith. They always have a couple of ballads on their albums, and there's a definite kind of middle eight in there that is referencing Aerosmith. I think I wrote that actually around the time Aerosmith had announced their kind of farewell tour. So
All right, okay,
I
yeah.
was listening to a lot of the Aerosmith stuff from the 90s. And so I think, that's ingrained in me, a lot of that stuff. And, I think I probably shied away from the pop side of stuff previously, and it seen that as a dirty word, that I
Yeah,
like having melodies in there. But the Beatles are pop, the Stones are pop. There's nothing wrong with it, really. You just,
absolutely.
the key thing is writing really cool melodies that people will be able to sing along with and they'll remember.
Absolutely, man. I mean, one of the tracks I particularly liked on it was "Running on an Empty." I mean, that riff when that comes out of the barrel, man. Like I say, when I messaged you the other day, I was at the gym listening to it for the first time, and I had to put my weights down. I guess it was that thing where I just kind of went, "Whoa, hang on, that's going back." Where did that song come from in the sort of writing process in terms of musically, lyrically?
That's quite early on, I think, that I wrote that one. I wrote Constellations and Days Are Gone when I was in Los Angeles. And it was the first time I'd been to Los Angeles, and you can't help but kind of feed off that vibe of being there.
Yeah.
Um, but then Running on Empty was one of those riffs that sort of, I had the riff and I had the verse melody, but I didn't have the chorus. And I think actually I wrote the chorus when we were in the studio.
Okay.
There was an alternate chorus and then I kind of reworked it. But that was the one, because we sort of road tested a few of these tracks on the last tour, and Running on Empty was the one that was really getting good feedback. So I thought, that's definitely got to be included on the record. But yeah, when you play it live as well, that riff, because you're just playing A. It's like A over and over again, but the slabs of A are really hard hitting. I was thinking that there's a lot of like government mule stuff that's a little bit like that, where it's just
Yeah.
kind of, it's not over elaborate. You're literally smacking people in the face with a big chord, and I think it's worked out pretty well, and it's going to be a lot of fun to play.
Well, Quo made a 50 odd year career in carrying out three chords, so I'm sure you can make a good one out of just one.
Yeah, I think it goes to G in the chorus, so it does vary it a little bit, but yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorites, man. I really enjoyed that. Do you same Josiah wrote? So did he co-write on the whole album, or was it just?
Yeah, I think that was something that was really exciting for me, to be honest, was that I think when we'd done the tour of the last record, I kind of finished that tour thinking, where do I go from here? And I'd written what, like 4 or 5 albums in a really
Yeah, so
quick
quite
succession.
some time. Yeah,
And so I was thinking, maybe I should try and collaborate with somebody. I'd really liked the sort of Smith Kotzen stuff, and I was thinking about
mm.
trying to collaborate with another guitar player and singer. But then obviously that isn't really what the situation is with Josiah, because obviously he's in Kris Barras band and stuff. But I like the idea of just trying to open things up. And, once we'd done Constellations, I think we both felt that it was a really good partnership, that we were pushing each other in interesting ways. And so I really enjoyed working with Josiah, and he's one of these people where, I've worked with producers in the past who can be really tough on you. And there's ways of communicating that actually keep you motivated. And Josiah's like, he's not one of those producers who's just going to say, look, man, that sucks. He's like, well, it's okay, but we can tweak this slightly. And I think there's a lot of tweaking on the songs. So, a lot of the riffs I came up with, but then Josiah kind of twists them and turns them. And, you know, um, there's a track on there called Don't Let the Effers Get You Down.
I
But
love that.
that track's got this middle eight section where it kind of goes double tempo, and that was all Josiah that he came up with that middle bit.
All right, cool.
So it's kind of, there's bits of it that you can definitely tell it's my songwriting, and then other elements that I think you can hear the kind of Kris Barras elements and stuff. But it was so much fun to do, and really easy. I think that the last album, The Hammer Falls, felt like a challenge at parts. Like we were doing it in bits as well, partly because it was recorded during COVID. So we were a little bit like, okay, we've done 2 tracks, but we can't get back in the studio for another 6 weeks. And so it just felt a bit odd.
A little bit stunted.
Yeah, whereas this was like, we're going in for 2 weeks. I'm staying down in Plymouth at Josiah's and, having a lot of barbecues and stuff in the evenings after we finish recordings. And Billy Hammett, who played drums on the album, he's just phenomenal drummer. And I made the mistake of filming him in the recording room at one point without putting my earplugs in, and I had to leave. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can hear anymore. So he's done some phenomenal drumming on this record.
I would say he's a heavy hitter, is Billy. I've obviously seen him a few times now, but
Yeah, but he's such a mild-mannered chap. When you talk to him, you wouldn't be able to kind of comprehend how vicious he is on the drums. And we were going for breakfast together most mornings where there's like a Weatherspoons near where Josiah lives. So me and him were going down there and having a coffee and stuff. And just chatting about stuff, chatting about music. And then an hour later he's in the drum room at 10 a.m. just sort of demolishing the walls. So yeah, it was a pleasure to work with him as well.
that's nice, man. I mean, mostly in support of the release, you've got the album launch show, which will be next Thursday.
Yes. Yeah, O2 Academy 2 Islington, which is yeah, it's a cool venue that I've played it a few times. I did the Hammer Falls album launch there, and
Hmm.
it's great to play in sort of central London as well. I've lived in London pretty much for 15 years now, so it kind of feels like playing a home show. But the only issue with the London shows is that they've always got these ridiculous curfews. I think the curfew's like 10 p.m. Um, which is kind of cool because it means we can drive off. We're playing in Blackpool the following day, so I think we're gonna drive up to Blackpool that night and just get the journey done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. The last time I played there was with a guy called Eric Steckel. I supported Eric Steckel there last summer,
Oh, yeah.
and that was quite good fun as well. Really, really great guitar player. So looking forward to heading back and doing my own headline show there. Be good.
Oh, nice one. You got some great support acts along with you as well.
Yeah, so Doomsday Outlaw and Skinny Knowledge are doing the London show, which is great because I saw Skinny Knowledge at Made of Stone last summer,
Yeah, I
and
saw him there. Yeah.
I thought they were really impressive. And I actually chatted to them like 10 minutes after they finished their set and was saying to them, "Look, I've got my album launch next year. Do you fancy doing it?" And yeah, they agreed. And then there's a couple of acts that are sort of joining for one-off shows that are. I think it's interesting having different supports throughout the tour rather than having one support across all the gigs. We got some acoustic acts as well. There's a bloke called Harry Anderson who's supporting us in Winchester, who's a really phenomenal folk singer. So I think it'll be an interesting run of dates, and hopefully people dig the new material because I've replaced most of the songs in my set. So there's all these tracks that it was tough last year, to be honest, because we were playing all these old tracks.
Yeah.
And so you kind of playing stuff that you've been playing for about 4 or 5 years. And we were like, we want to play the new stuff, but then you can't really play all the new stuff before the albums come out. So I'm just looking forward to being able to play some new material. Good.
Nice, man. Are there any songs off the album in particular you're really looking forward to kicking people in the chest with?
Yeah, I think Rip It Up's a good one. That's pretty phenomenal track to play live. And in rehearsals, it's interesting because some of the songs sound slightly heavier, like Love Is the Law. We did a sort of quite heavy version of that. But Don't Let the Fuckers Get You Down is really good. It's a good track because it's just got that Aerosmith sort of riff at the beginning.
It has, yeah.
And you know, it just kicks in with a load of melody. So I'm interested to see the response to that one. And a good chorus as well. If anyone's having a hard week and they come and see our show on the tour, hopefully they can let a bit of steam off by singing along with the chorus to that one.
It's always a good one for stuff like that when a band or an act has a chorus that's like that. It's very cathartic when you get to stand in for it with a few hundred people and scream that back.
Yeah, yeah. And some of them, I think Constellations and Bullets, which have been played quite a lot on Planet Rock, it's interesting seeing people know the lyrics to them because they've just probably heard it so much now that but hopefully they're not sick of it. But it's sort of one of those things where it's great and it's so kind of emotional when you see the responses at gigs where people know the lyrics to your songs. It's quite powerful, really.
Oh, nice one. So he's in the band this time around. Are you taking out on the road?
So It's the same band that I've had for sort of 2 years now. So I've got
Oh,
Charlie Rachel Kay on
no.
bass and Phil Wilson on drums. Um, and yeah, so Phil's he's been quite busy recently. He did a tour with Kiefer Sutherland, the actor from 24, and well, I knew Kiefer Sutherland from The Lost Boys. That's one of my favorite films. So he's yeah, it'll be fun to sort of catch up with Phil and hear some stories about Kiefer and Charlie's. She's been out with Ashley Sherlock band, so she's it's always interesting when we come together because we've always got like different stories from different tours to discuss. But they're two great players, and I think it's been a pleasure working with them over the last couple of years. And they it's interesting hearing their interpretation of the tracks because obviously Phil didn't play the drums on the record,
Hmm.
and he's a very different drummer to Billy. So you're hearing a different version of these songs live, and Phil's just I mean, he's just one of the best drummers on the scene. He's just absolutely
Yeah,
phenomenal.
fantastic. Yeah.
Um, and so, he's got a good taste in clothes as well, which is always beneficial.
He's stealing his clothes now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those where I'm not quite as skinny as Phil is, so I wish I could fit into his clothes. But you always want a drummer that looks good, don't you?
Uh,
Unfortunately, they never get featured in any of the photography from the gigs because they're stuck at the back.
and he's the best dressed.
Yeah, he is. I think it's yeah, I just think it's going to be really good fun going out with the guys. I think that they're really good on the road as well. We don't seem to have any drama or anything like that. And you know, I think they seem to be digging the new material as well. I think that when they joined my setup, we were still really doing stuff from Paint No Fiction. We were doing a lot of that older stuff. So Phil did a really good job on the Rip It Up video as well. He directed that, so he's sort of
Oh, cool.
showing multi-talented. He's a multi-talented individual, Phil. So I think it's been great having him in the band for that as well.
Yeah, man. Well, obviously, you three of you played at Just Push Play last year when we did the Friday, and I won't forget there was a little lad, and he was air drumming along at the side, and Phil just was like, "Come on, mate, come on."
Oh man, when he got on stage, I sort of dragged this kid up on stage, and for the first minute, he looked horrified, and I was like, "What have I done?" Because sometimes you do it, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing,"
Yeah,
but then I looked at Phil, and Phil was like, "Mate, what have you done? This lad's just terrified," and I was like, "Oh gosh." But he then did eventually get into it. I think Phil handed him some drumsticks, and he was just hitting
yeah.
the cymbals. But maybe I've learned my lesson from that instance. Not just drag people onto the stage when they don't really want to be on there.
Yeah, well, I know his mum and dad a little bit, Shell and Ryan, so they've been at Just Push Play quite a lot,
Yeah.
and I know them quite a bit. Obviously, they're from around Bury, but I was seeing the little man there drumming. I was like, oh, that's cool. And obviously, with Just Push Play for me down, I see that kind of thing going on. It's good for me. And
Well, you definitely raised the coolness level of the band for about 5 minutes, so that was
even
good.
if he was terrified.
I remember that gig for being one of the hottest gigs I've ever done. I honestly, it was like my fingers were slipping all over the fretboard because it was so sweaty on that stage. And when we were driving off in the van, I was like Phil, I'm sorry, but I think we all need a shower. Like it was disgusting. It was like we were absolutely drenched, but so much fun as always playing your festival, man. It was a good laugh.
No, thanks, man. It's always good to have you on, so I appreciate that. But what's other than obviously, you're going off the album's about to set to launch. You're going off on the tour, which obviously kicks off next week, and then like I say, you got the album launch show and everything. But other than that, you got some festivals lined up as well.
Yeah, so we've been doing festivals over the summer period, and we've got some stuff lined up for the end of the year, which hasn't been announced yet. And then we'll probably do another short run of dates, I'd imagine, in the autumn. And then I suppose it's, looking at going abroad. I'd like to get over to Europe. I was supposed to go to Spain a couple of months ago, but it was just one of those things where I think we felt like we were going a bit too ahead of the time, really, because the new album hadn't come out, and it was like, let's do this properly and go over in 2024. And I'd like to get back to America. I mean, that was great to go over there last year and do a second little run of shows. But the two times I've been to America, I've just done solo acoustic stuff, and it's mainly to do with the cost of taking the band over. But what I'd like to do is take them over later this year and get Phil and Charlie over and playing some shows and playing this new material because I don't think Bullets lends itself to solo acoustic. Some of
No
the
problem.
other stuff as well, it needs to be the full band for this material, really.
Absolutely, man. You were speaking earlier about how on your previous records written predominantly solely on your own. This record you've been writing with Josiah, but if there was any other person you were going to collaborate with, if you like in an ideal world, who would you
Mm.
like to write an album with if you could write one with anyone?
I'd like to write an album with another guitarist and singer. I think that's quite an interesting approach. And as I mentioned earlier on, I like the Smith Kotzen sort of thing.
Mm.
I thought that was great and
It's
actually
a great
kind of,
record.
some ways, kind of preferred that to, I'm a big Maiden fan, obviously, but, I really like the Smith Kotzen stuff. I like Richie Kotzen's voice. And actually, that's some of the best material he's done in a long time, I felt. But it'd be great if I could find another guitarist singer who kind of complements me. But there's loads of different people that I'm friends with on the scene that would be amazing to work with. So I think what it did with Josiah was it opened my eyes to the idea of collaboration and also seeing that when you collaborate with somebody, you're pushing one another. And that's actually a really cool thing. And I think, not being so defensive about things and assuming that I know best, which is how I've always been, really. I think it's going to be really interesting moving forwards how that's kind of liberated my songwriting. So we'll see. We'll see if something crops up.
Did you feel like you had a real good? It was obviously it was a completely other side of the coin because you were used to working on your own and writing in that way. But did you feel like that was actually a more productive way for you to work, to have that someone to, like you say, to bounce ideas off, to show a different angle to where the song could go?
Yeah, because it was almost like the pressure was off. And it was like having this external voice that would say, well, this riff isn't quite good enough, or maybe we could twist this melody line. Or one of the big things that we worked on in the studio was my voice, and Josiah's wife Charlotte's a vocal coach. So we did a
Oh,
lot of
right. Okay.
work, particularly on tracks like Stay With Me, where my default is to try and sing at the absolute limit of my vocal range. And I did a lot of work on this record with Charlotte where Stay With Me is in a lower register, but then it gives me room to go to that high bit at the end, so the song builds. And you know, that allows you to have more power in your voice. And so it was really interesting thinking, well, I don't really think about keys so much. I write all my songs in E. That's kind of how, mainly because it's like there's a load of Led Zeppelin tracks that were written in E. And so it was just like an automatic that I'll write all these riffs in E. So yeah, I think that's been a lot of fun trying to become a better singer. And hopefully that will be a journey that's just beginning, really, because I think it'll be interesting to see how these songs are delivered live.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you live. I'm looking for the album to being launched so that I can play more stuff on the radio show. As always, my friend, it's great to chat to you, Jack. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Well, just before I go, I've got to say that I was actually looking at caps like yours right before this interview started. So I might, next time you see me, I might have a very
You're
similar
gonna
hat to
you're gonna have
yours.
a go for the Peaky Blinders list.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So at the beginning of the interview, mate, I'm going to play "Running on Empty" because we were talking about that quite a bit. Obviously, this interview is getting launched on album launch day, so everyone go grab your copy. But what song off the album would you like us to play at the end of the interview?
Well, I think my favorite track is probably Rip It Up. I just think it's great. And it's got, for me, the best guitar solo, which is always really important. And the guitar solo it nicks a little bit of rock and roll from Led Zeppelin, which is one of my favorite Jimmy Page guitar solos. So Rip It Up, it's a good one, and hopefully it'll be a good one for people to sing along with at festivals.
Nice one, man. Well, we'll lock that in to end off the interview. And as always, man, good to see you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.